Hey, welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to have everyone here. I'm here to welcome Indu. Hi, Indu.
Hi, Karishma.
How
Nice
are
to
you
see you.
doing? Yes, good
Good,
to see
very
you
good.
too. Yeah, I love the pink.
Thank you.
So in all her brightness, Indu is here to join us in Kolkata's quest to sort of, introduce this series, The Aware Parent. And when we say the aware parent, we're talking about all caregivers, anyone who's mildly interested in how you can impact your children better, grandparents, parents, caregivers, aunts, uncles, the whole shebang, from educators to teachers to nannies, anyone who says, hey, how can I improve this child's life? This is for you. Because the topic for today is the importance and impact for childhood. And I don't know anyone else better than Indu, who's been doing this for 40 years. She's a psychologist who's walked handheld so many different clients through their journeys. And I think there's been a direct correlation between who they are and what their childhood meant to them. So I'd really like you to tune in to try and just keep an open mind. This is a space of no judgment. Try and keep an open mind as to what you could do better, perhaps just making yourself a little happier and the child in your orbit. So Indu, what opening thoughts do you have about the impact and importance of childhood?
Well, to start with, thank you, Karishma, for calling me on. And it's a pleasure because it's a topic so close to my heart that, and I've worked with it, like you said, 40 years. That means I have children also my own who are 40 and a little over 40. And I recognize, I mean, a lot of parenting is work in progress. As we parent, we learn, but you also learn in hindsight, which you can do nothing about because whatever you've done, you've done. The good strokes show a result, the not so good strokes also show a result. But just to start with, I want to share a very small, actually, an experience I had. Um, I have a driver, and my driver is not a literate man or anything. When one day, one of my neighbors asked me to ask him if he knows of any driver. They wanted to hire a driver. So I just told him, I said, Shabir, if you know of any good driver, these people living on the fourth floor, they're looking for a driver. So he looked at me and he said, madam, um, गाड़ी चलाने को सबको आता है लेकिन गाड़ी संभालने को नहीं आता है. And it rang a bell in my head because he immediately countered it with saying, जैसा बच्चा पैदा करने को सबको आता है लेकिन बच्चे को संभालना नहीं आता है. So that told me that the work I do is always talking about not to have how to have a child, but how to raise a child. And raising a child is the crux because all of us parents know that the best compliments you receive in life is when people say to you that your children have turned well. You like to take some of it. I'm sure it's their own karma also. But if you do some strokes which are in awareness, being aware, because we do lots of stuff with being not aware, then awareness is the key to raising children the best they could.
Okay, brilliant. So I think Indu's driver has given us a lot of wisdom there. He's literally said, you can drive the car, but taking care of the car is probably much more difficult. Just like you can give birth to a child, but taking care of the child is very difficult. So it's not so relevant of, oh, can I have the child? And, how do we sort of just birth this child? But how do we, go from there on? So you've said a lot about strokes, Indu. And I know that in your counseling, in the caregiving roles that you have, you are aware of these strokes. Could you explain to everyone who's listening, what do you mean by a stroke?
I think for me, typically, and even because I do this work, I see it even today's parents, there's a lot of focus on what they eat because we read a lot about obesity, childhood diabetes. So mothers and fathers are going crazy, no sugar, no salt, no this, no that, whatever they do. So you want to take care of their stomachs and their health through the food. There is also mental health, which you can't see what you're doing to. And the strokes are more about, just like you care about the food, you also care about their well being You don't want to put them in dangerous situations. You don't want them to fall. You may always have a maid or somebody, or you're watching them. You don't want them to get physically hurt. Then as much focus has to be on their mental health. And some of the biggest issues I deal with is about adults who have had childhood issues with maybe dysfunctional families, sometimes not even dysfunctional, functional families which have not actually paid attention to how they have been directly, indirectly saying and doing things which is detrimental to the child's mental health. Like so easily, parents can say, this is common sense. You don't know this? This is common sense when you teach your child. Common sense for who? The fact that he doesn't know it, he's a child, it's not common sense. So, I mean, I've given you the simplest one. Parents say things like, you're a fool, you can't do this, or why did you do this, or you broke this glass. What happens? Every time he breaks something, he's scared as hell of you. Yeah? So things like that. So I mean, these are the strokes that we give. And every time we're giving a stroke, we are also putting in a little bit of stuff into his mind, which is saying, this is good for me or this is not. And what he or she internalizes and what they do with that stroke, you actually have no control over.
So, what you're essentially saying is that we feed our children all these thoughts or strokes without us sort of even knowing it. And to everyone who's listening, I think you have to really tune in on her exact words there. She's like, you're careful about the physical aspect of what's happening, but what about the mental aspect? Without even knowing it, you're talking down to them, you're belittling them, and you're making them feel inadequate, and you're sort of not even aware of it. And I think that then we could possibly move on to the territory of, hey, this is a child who's been spoken to like that. What is the impact of that, Indu? Where how does that transition into an adult for a child who's been spoken like that? What are the symptoms that carry
Well,
forward?
I can tell you there are many. I mean, children who are rejected constantly. Who's the first group that a child is born into? It's the family group.
Mhm.
Everybody who's in authority in the family, whether it is your parents, it's the grandparents, it's the maids, it's the support aunties, uncles, the whole constellation of the family is impacting this child's life, mental health. Just like this whole family also will say, eat this, don't eat this is good for you, this is not, look at the birds and I'll shove food in your mouth, all of that. I mean, we are constantly doing something which they are internalizing and they're growing. When you force feed a child, for example, simple thing, that you force feed the child, what message are you giving the child? He doesn't want to eat. You are telling him or her that you cannot make a decision whether you're full or no. I can.
Mhm.
You cannot make that decision. And so they start to believe that they don't know what is happening to them. You can tell them what is happening to them. And you will do. So if you're feeling cold, he may be feeling hot, you'll go and put a sweater onto him. Yeah. So I don't want the sweater. No, no, you need it. It's cold. So no, I'm not feeling cold. No, you need it. Put it on. And you put it on for him. So he'll bake there. So every time we do actions like that, you're not helping him to think as well as to believe that he has the power to make his own decisions. He grows up, and you talk of the impact in adulthood. They're going to their parents or to everybody, they're never sure of themselves. They're asking everybody because you don't believe you have that, you're adequate enough. You don't believe it. And I mean, culturally also, we don't believe it because we were historically invaded or we were colonized. So everybody who came said, we are not good enough. And you have a whole pack, a whole culture doesn't feel good enough. So that's the impact it can have. And it starts from parenting, it starts from school. Teachers do the same. You ask a question in class, what do they do? If the teacher cannot answer, it should say, you're so bold, you ask this question, sit down. So what are you supposed to do with that question? You say, these are not questions I ask. It's a lot of impact. I mean, we can go into a lot. And I'll give you one really gory story, which also you might see impact through that. Who was constantly being beaten when she was a child by her father, physically beaten. And I mean, now as an adult, she understands that her father had a very frustrating job. She's German, and so she said Germany was going through a lot of troubles at that time, and maybe he was misplacing his anger. He was frustrated with his job. So I was the only one. I was small. He used to come home, small things I would do, and he would beat me. So she reached a point when she was 7 or 8 years old, when he used to beat her, she used to start singing. And she would sing because she said that was the only way I could cope with the beating I was getting, that I would try to take my mind off the pain and the humiliation and the sadness, and that this is, father's a big man, I'm a small little child of 7, and that's what he's doing to me. Today, as an adult, she's 52 years old. And all her life, she's had issues with men because looks at men as powerful. She said, I reached a point where I used to provoke my father to beat me. And she provokes men she meets. So I actually do things so that the relationship goes bust. I actually do it. Now, this is a very, very intense story, but I'm giving you this story to understand that parents are doing things. Her father has said sorry to her 100 times when she was older. He's compensated by buying her a house and doing many things. But the damage is done. The scars are there, and she lives with those scars.
That's a really, really poignant story. And I think that for everyone who's listening, they think it's very extreme. But actually, if you look at anyone's life in a microscope, I think patterns will emerge, right? It's about, oh, that happened to me when I was a child, and that's why I'm like this. And unless you actually seek someone and seek help to sort of shed light on who you are and why you are that way, those patterns hold us hostage. We're sort of, stuck in that past without
Yeah,
even
yeah.
knowing. And I think for people tuning in, just wanted to sort of tell you that we're talking to Indu here. We're talking about the impact and importance of childhood, and it carries on throughout their life. For all the caregivers who are listening, every time you talk to your child, what stroke are you giving them? Can you be more aware of that? And how those strokes actually have a deep impact, perhaps on yourself. Look at your own life and then translate that into your child's life. And how can that be different? And the story is intense, it's impactful, but I think it hits home, Indu. And I think a lot of people, who've had similar experiences with their children, are sort of cringing inside of themselves. They're like, I have this guilt, I have this shame, just like possibly, this girl's father. And I'm glad you mentioned that this girl is German, because for a lot of Indians who are watching, we think this is an Indian problem, but it's actually a global problem.
Yeah.
All of us as humanity, we have different issues, and, we cope with our children in different ways. So for those of you, who are possibly thinking, how can I do this better? Like, I'm feeling this shame and I'm feeling like I can't get out and heal my relationship. You said you have kids who are as old as 40. Maybe, adults are also saying, I'm cringing with shame, guilt. Have you gone through any of those experiences as well? Or can you tell people who are feeling a little bad for, lost moments? What is your advice to them?
I think, yes, I've had many moments like that, but I've always cleared it in the moment. So I'll give you a very small example of my own life and my children. When my children were growing up, my son must have been 7 or 8, and my daughter, she's 3 years older, so she would be 10, 11. In comparison, the two kids, my daughter was always good to study. I never had to teach her. She would do things on her own. She was very responsible for her education, whatever she took up. My son was always in games. He'd get up for football class at 5:30, but on school days he can't get up from the bed till I drag him and take him to the bathroom to brush his teeth. So sometimes it get very frustrating. And when guests would come, we call the children out to introduce them, and I would say things like, Orima is very good in studies, and she takes part in, the choir because she got a good voice, all of that. Gaurav was always on the football field. And one day he called me and he said, Mama, I want to tell you something. And he was only 7 or 8. And he says that every time people come, you call us out, and I don't like to come. So I said, why? So he says, I don't like to meet people because I said, you have to meet people. You must meet your parents' friends, their children, all of that. That's how we kind of increase the number of people we know. And so he says, no, I don't dislike meeting people. I dislike what you say. You
Mm.
say in front of people that she's very good in studies and she does everything, and that I'm always on the football field. I don't want to be compared with my sister. If she likes to study, that's her issue. If I like to play football, that's my thing. Why are you comparing? I don't want to be her. It I feel smaller. I don't like to come out, and next time, please don't call me. Actually, I was guilty of having done something like that. I was also very happy that he had the courage to tell me. Many children don't tell their parents. So how do you open the play field for your child to be able to come up and say something to you, you know? And actually apologize to him. I said, I'm really sorry, because I don't mean to. I really didn't mean to. Obviously, no parent does. I said, it was very light-hearted, but in a joke, you're insulting him. In a light-hearted way, you're insulting him. So people make jokes on people. Oh, she's very fat, or she's very dark, or she's very tall. And it's hurtful. We don't realize children feel hurt. And I'm so glad that he told me that, because in many ways, I turned a curve with him. I was able to then realize that I have this power. So in spite of being a psychologist, I still do it. And I'm saying to all the parents, I mean, there are no right, wrong. It's just awareness and constantly keeping the dialogue open so that they can also tell you. I mean, you can be the best parent only if your children say so that to you. If they don't say you're the best parent, what's the use of shouting on the rooftop and saying that, right? They have to endorse it. And for them to endorse it, you have to keep asking them, what am I doing right? What can I do better? Is there anything else I can do to be a better parent to you?
So thanks for sharing something so personal, because I think it's really lovely for people to hear that, you know what, she's human. You know, she's a psychologist, she's got all these answers and tips, but she's human, just like you and me and all of everyone listening. And so I heard two things there. One is that apart from I'm human and everyone makes these mistakes, one is open the door, even today, open the door, listen to what your child has to say, enable those moments of honest communication where your child feels safe enough to do that. And two, move past the emotions of guilt, shame, of the past, because then if you're stuck in that, you can never move to step one in the first place. So the only way to sort of, have that dialogue is to sort of say, to be in the moment and sort of either apologize or explain or do whatever it is to get to that healthier version of you.
I think if you don't get past the guilt and the shame, many parents overcompensate. Like I told you the earlier story, then you buy your child a house, you buy them this because you're trying to compensate. You're guilty of whatever you do. And so you keep trying to give them things. You keep trying to appease them and say things that are. So parenting is this very thin line you're constantly walking on. You're giving inputs, you have to be firm, you have to be nurturing, but you can't give in to everything they want because you are the adult there. You know what is good for them. You know what. So I always tell parents when I talk to them that if you can say yes, don't say no.
Mm.
If you can say yes, don't say no. So explore the possibility of saying yes, have conversations, engage with them. Because I mean, early years, you will be controlling many things. Middle years, adolescent, they start to control you. And you get into all this tangle because they wanting their way. And then you will come down heavy and say, no, not possible. So for that, I can give you one more example, which is again my personal example. When my daughter was 18, 19, she had joined a college in downtown Mumbai. We live in suburban Mumbai. So she would say things like, you tell me to come home by straight after college, all my friends go out and I can never join them because you make all these rules. So I said, okay, we'll change the rules. You tell me what rules you want. She says that, okay, if we go out somewhere in the evening, I don't need to come back and then go again into town. I'll go to somebody's house. Like she had a couple of friends who were downtown people. I'll go to their house and then I'll come back. I said, what time would you come back? She said, I come back by 10 o'clock. So I said, okay, 10 o'clock is fine. I'm saying 10:30. Don't make it 10 o'clock. Make it 10:30. But if you don't come at 10:30, what should I do? If I don't come at 10:30, don't send me out for a month. I said, fine. So I actually did that. The first time she didn't come back at 10. The first time. I said, you made the rule. We'll stick to your rule. Please don't ask me for the next month. And I stuck to it. She came many times to say, Mama, I'm really sorry. Didn't drop me. That happened, that happened. I said, no, you must play by your own rules. You said 10, I said 10:30. You didn't even come at 10:30. So it's only 1 month. Don't go out for 1 month. We'll figure it out. Of course, then she was more careful, and as she grew, of course, we extended the time because growing up in Bombay, a 21-year-old, and by the time she was 21, she was gone from home in the first place. But I'm just saying that sometimes you have to be loving, caring, nurturing, but firm. If you're not firm, you're going to get taken for a nice, merry ride. Because children are smart. They know exactly how to work their parents. We all learned master manipulation very young age.
Yeah. And I think the manipulation is a human trait and it's part of
Yeah.
survival and who we are. And, it also
And
reveals.
there's no negative connotation to it. It's just that we know how to manage our lives.
And I think what you're saying is so true because children or humans, all of us, try and get the best of what we want because we desire something and we want to get there. And how we want to get there is probably, doesn't matter. The path of how to get there doesn't matter, right? It's just about literally getting there. So,
Yeah.
I think I don't know if everyone's listening to sort of resonating with that. When you start feeling those guilt and shame, you start overcompensating. You start overcompensating. You're actually not aiding your child in becoming the best version of themselves. You are so busy trying to appease them that you sort of, let go of your
Yeah.
value. Sort of compromise on things that you probably don't want for your child, and then ends there begins a vicious cycle of whatever we call these manipulation or games and strategies, when actually you can have that dialogue like Indu has just described. You have that dialogue, you let them regulate themselves, and then you hold them to their word, and that's probably a healthier way to do that. So I think that's a really, really good tip. Lots of love, right? Don't say no when you can say yes, and stay firm. Any other tips, any other practical, tools, anything that you can say, hey, do this, and you'll probably be just a little more aware than, when they began watching this conversation.
Well, I mean, there can be many tips. They're always in the moment when situations happen. You must always, first of all, remember that whatever you want your child to be or do, you demonstrate it. Children don't learn by listening to instruction. Don't do this. Don't do that. Why are you doing this? All this, they're not listening. They are watching you. If you say that you are kind hearted or you believe in equality, for example, these are my values. I believe in equality. They look at how you are dealing with other people. They look at other people and they see how you be unequal with certain people. You talk to some people some way and you talk to some people some way. They look at that and they learn to do exactly the same thing. And then you wonder. So actually everything the child is learning, you are the primary teacher in their life. And whatever you're doing, if you say, many parents say, oh well, they don't hug us anymore. But you stopped hugging them when they were 6 and 7. You were too busy with your life. Now you want them to hug you, they are on their own trip. Or very simple things, like, I never encouraged them to lock a door in their house. You go in, especially when they're 12, 13, they want to go and sit and call their friends and go in the room. I never shut the door. Because when you shut the door, you're shutting the door from me. I'm the other person in the house. I don't be shut out. You tell me your friends are coming, I won't come in the way. I'll do my own thing. I'll be out of the way. You do your own thing. But don't shut the door. I see a lot of parents struggling with how to get this person out of the room. Because even the parents shut the door. Even the parents shut the door and say, don't come in now. We are doing this or we are doing that. Please don't. So, if you don't help them to understand why you do what you do, they're going to do exactly the same thing. And so I think the best tip is to say, demonstrate, model what you want them to be and do. You talk to people in a loud tone, abusive tone, anything you do. You say, don't lie. The next phone call that comes, you say, tell them I'm not at home. What have they learned? That we can say don't lie, but we can lie. They're learning it all, every minute of the time you are with them. They're learning something from you. So if you want to be this teacher who has raised kids, and I'm sure we have all made, like I told you, I've made many mistakes, you would make them too. But apology is a big one. Apologizing to your child or even to people around you when you make mistakes helps you to humble yourself and brings you down a bit. There's a lot of arrogance in parenting. There's a lot of arrogance. Everything is put in respect. I think I need this respect. So, I mean, I see adult people unable to communicate with their parents because they say, no, my father says I'm disrespecting him if I ask him this or if I say this. Like, you're a 50-year-old man, 40-year-old man, you're disrespecting. So respect doesn't come from just listening and doing things outside the house. Respect is if I don't do anything derogatory to you in your presence. So I'm sensitive to your presence. I think, these are very, very small tips, but in the moment, if you need a self-help, is saying what I'm doing just now, am I taking control of this child's life? Am I forcing them to do something which I think is right for them without without listening to them? Listen to them. See what they say. Listen to their point of view. They know. They know far more than us often.
And what you've sort of said, you've said it's simple, but it's a very, very hard act to follow, right? It's so easy to say, you know what, they're watching every move and be aware of that because they're going to emulate you. They're not going to listen to your words. They're going to do as you do. And that is a very, very difficult thing. I can imagine the kind of pressure people are under just listening to that because you're like, oh my God. But that's literally been the common thread across every person that I've been in conversation with for this series. People saying children do not listen, they watch you and they do. And take responsibility for that in that sense because
Yeah.
they are mirroring you, and that responsibility in itself will sort of empower you to become the person that you probably want to be anyway. You probably want to be that person because if you have a certain value set for your children, you probably want to embody that, and so far life hasn't thrown that opportunity. And I really, really urge you to take this on as a challenge. Say, hey, what is it in my life that I can do better so my children can benefit from that, right? And I think that Indu would completely resonate with a challenge like this because you are bringing that emulation into your biorhythm. You're being that person that your child wants to see. And then you spoke a little about dialogue, and you talked about how children can really feel understood. Can you tell us a little more about that, Indu? So you're
I
emulating,
will.
yeah, and then
I'll give you an example that after this time when I told you about my son and my daughter, after that, one day I kind of um, told them that let's get into this habit of giving each other some feedback of how we are. So I have this 11-year-old, I have this 8-year-old, and myself. My husband at that time was always out, so I don't include him in these conversations. I'm sitting with the children, and I said, I actually took out the concept of feedback, and I started to tell them. Now you think 8-year-old is very young; he can't understand it, but I'm saying the feedback is you tell me what I should do as a mother to be a better mother, because that's my biggest goal, and I can also then tell you what you need to do so that we can have this. So they both said okay. And a week or 10 days later, I was just doing some work in my living room and I saw my son. He had just learned to join words, to write words, alphabets, and write words, because 8th, 3rd grade, he's joining and making sentences. So I saw a paper on the dining table and I saw mama, mama written on it a couple of times. So I just said, what are you doing? Are you studying? What are you doing? He said, no, you said to write about you. So I've written. I said, oh, I had forgotten actually. I just said it and I had forgotten completely. So I sat down with him and I said, what have you written? And he had written 10 things on that paper. I'll share a couple of them. One of the things he said to me, he wrote also that I love you, mama. You give me many hugs. Nice things, he said. And there were a couple. One, he said, whenever you have nothing to do, you look at my face and you say, when are you going to study? uh, which sounds really as if I'm lunatic, but that's probably I was doing it, because as a parent, you're just thinking that they have to study. So it says that, and when I am studying, you come to me and you say, if you're doing nothing, please go down and buy bread. We used to have a store in the building, and I used to send him to do all these errands of buy bread, buy milk, buy this, buy that. So he's saying, when I'm studying, then you don't think I'm studying. Then you just, because you want the bread, you send me out. Then, of course, he said many more things, but just these two sentences made me realize that how unaware I am of my child's need. I'm just roaming in a zone of my own, and I'm walking around doing these very automatic things. When you talk of strokes, which we started the conversation, what strokes am I telling my son that what you're doing is not important? What I want is, that I'm not aware of what I'm doing also with you. What does he learn? So then when he wants something, he thinks, well, it's what I want is important because you do that. Yeah. So the fact that I opened the channel for feedback, I mean, now, of course, without fail, they give me feedback on everything because now they're adults. And the thing is, it's open. I can also do it with them. I can also very nicely tell them that I'd like, or I appreciated this, or I was hurt by this, or I'm sad by this. And we can talk about it. We can clarify it, and we can clean the air, and we can move on. You don't have to sit with it and make it a heavy load and burden.
That's lovely. I think that dialogue, and I love the points because I think every parent is possibly doing the exact same thing. But it's great, that, the first thing that he wants to do is articulate it to you, right? I get feedback from my 3-year-old and 5-year-old regularly, and I'm always told about how I can do better without even sort of, asking for it or having an open dialogue about this. And I think that's what's so wonderful is that children are fully capable of being aware of us when we think we're not even aware of ourselves, right? They're the ones who are pointing, the light on us and showing us the mirror and saying, hey, what are you doing? And I just love these little examples. I think we've lost Indu there for a second. But I think that you've loved those personal stories. You've loved all the impactful stories of our clients. And I think we're sort of understanding of how very impactful these childhood dialogues can be in determining the adult your child grows up to be. Any final thoughts on this, Indu? Anything you want to, bring this beautiful conversation up to a nice little wrap?
Well, I think that your internet connection is unstable. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you nice and clear.
I think it's not, don't try too hard. Just be yourself. That's the best advice I can give. Be yourself, be joyful, be happy. You've had this child, it's a gift from God. Raise them. You don't have to be stressed. There are very stressed parents. Make it sound like it's the big deal. So the harder you try, the more mess you make. Let go, let go, just let it be. Let them have fun with them. Create really joyful times, experiences. Look at us, whatever you remember of your childhood is all the joyful experiences you had. So celebrate life, celebrate festivals, celebrate things, because that's what they grow up with. They go very soon away from you. I mean, I'm talking through experience, and I'll leave you with this last line, which I love to quote Khalil Gibran, because I'm a big Khalil Gibran. If you guys have not read his stories, or he's like a guide, philosopher, Sufi kind of master. And one of the things he says about children, he says, children are like arrows you set off from a bow. You only have control on the child as long as it is with the bow. Once it's gone, it's gone. You can't do anything. You can't change its direction. It's already gone. So while they're still with you, love them, shape them in a way that arrow is in the direction you think you'd like them to grow and go.
Beautiful.
That's the best.
Beautiful. Thank you. I think that's wonderful, right? The greatest impact that you can have is just be there for them. Be your most joyful, self. Be a celebration for them, with them, and enjoy each moment. I don't think that we can end this on a more sweeter note. Thank you so much, Indu. Yes, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to listen to you, because while you've kept it intense, you've also kept it very, very light and real. And I think people, find this accessible and they'll really draw a lot from what you have to say. Keep
Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's been such a pleasure to have this conversation. For everyone watching, we have lots of little series and snippets. People like Indu who are passionate about childhood, who are passionate about living a healthier, better life, conscious life. We've lots more coming up in the series. We've lots more coming up in Soul Katha. And like we say at the end of each session, I really hope that you shine brighter with Soul Katha. That's what we say, Indu.
To everybody, the same. Yeah.
Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thanks, Indu. Thanks so much.